Imagine you're exploring some old, dusty archive. Maybe it's a library, maybe a cave, I don't know. You find a box, and inside, it's not a treasure map or, a history of the world. It's a manual. But as you start flipping through it, you realize this isn't a manual for a car. It claims to be a manual for you.
And not in a biological sense either. It's not telling you how your liver works or anything. It's more like the source code for the human soul.
Exactly. It's this dense, absolutely no-nonsense list of rules.
Yeah.
And it covers everything. I mean, it goes from the darkest corners of your subconscious all the way to how you should behave standing in line at the grocery store. Today, we're opening that box. We're diving deep into the new era Human 800 concepts. And specifically, we're looking at the block from item 101 to 200.
It's a fascinating slice of the text because, if you look at the first 100 concepts, they really set a
Let's
foundation.
set the stage.
Right. But this section, this is the application layer. So the mission for this deep dive is to really take these 100 concepts apart and see what makes them tick. Because at first glance, they can look like a random grab bag, a little psychology, a little strict morality.
A little spiritual advice, yeah.
But when you arrange them together, you see a system. It's a comprehensive guide on how to maintain spiritual hygiene.
Spiritual hygiene. I love that phrase because reading through this, it really does feel like it's asking us to scrub the grime off our minds.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the tone isn't exactly gentle. It's not a warm hug.
Not at all. It's urgent. It's uncompromising. And it uses metaphors that are just incredibly visceral, almost medical. It doesn't treat negative thoughts as just having a bad day.
Or feeling a bit off.
No, it treats them as active physical self-destruction.
That's where I want to start, the internal state. We talk a lot about mental health in modern society, but usually in these, clinical terms like anxiety or depression. This text uses language that feels almost medieval in its intensity, yet weirdly accurate to how it feels.
It really does. Look at item 103. It tackles vanity. Now, usually we think of vanity as a pretty minor character flaw, right?
Yeah, someone who looks in the mirror too much.
Exactly. But this text calls vanity the cancer cell of humanity.
That stopped me in my tracks, a cancer cell. That is such a heavy label.
It is, but think about the mechanism of a cancer cell. What does it actually do? It consumes the resources of the host body just to fuel its own useless, chaotic growth. It doesn't contribute.
It just takes.
It just takes and expands until the whole system collapses. The text is arguing that vanity functions the exact same way in the human spirit. It's a malignancy that eats the host alive.
So it's not just don't be vain because it's annoying. It's don't be vain because it is literally killing you. And it keeps going with this kind of biological imagery. Item 106 and 107, they talk about anger.
Right. It calls getting angry the source of all illness, and it likens it to a tornado or taking chronic poison.
That's the one that hit me hardest. Taking chronic poison.
Hmm.
We usually think when we get angry at someone, we're directing that energy outward.
Like we're firing a weapon at them.
Yeah. But this text just flips the camera around.
Exactly. It argues that the angry person is the first victim of the tornado. You are destroying your own house hoping the debris hits your neighbor.
Or you're drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It just reframes anger from a weapon into a method of suicide.
It gets even more graphic in item 120. It compares being generally negative, pessimism, complaining, that woe is me attitude to cutting one's own arteries.
That's a violent image, isn't it?
It is. But it really gets the point across. If you saw someone physically cutting their arteries, you'd rush to stop them. You'd call an ambulance.
Of course.
But we let ourselves bleed out emotionally with negativity every single day. The text is saying, stop the bleeding.
So if these are the poisons, vanity, anger, negativity, what does the text say about how we view other people? Because it seems like our internal state just dictates how we see the world.
It's a mirror. That's a recurring theme here. Item 101 says jealousy is a reflection of an ugly soul.
And item 102 says the desire to compare yourself to others is an evil heart.
Comparison is the thief of joy, as the saying goes.
Right, but here it's not just a thief, it's a moral failing. It suggests that looking sideways at what your neighbor has isn't just a bad habit, it's a symptom of a deep sickness.
Because it implies you aren't focused on your own path. You're looking for validation or status relative to someone else, which, going back to the metaphor, is just a form of vanity.
It's resource mismanagement.
Totally. It's resource mismanagement of your own emotional energy. You're spending your energy auditing someone else's life instead of living your own.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the illness, we're vain, angry, jealous, and we're bleeding out from negativity. What's the cure? The text isn't all doom and gloom.
No, it offers an antidote. And the primary antidote listed in item 109 is gratitude. It calls gratitude the primary element for upgrading the quality of life.
So if negativity is cutting the artery, gratitude is the suture.
It seals the wound, stops the leak. Exactly.
There's also a more philosophical cure in item 115. This line felt like a Zen koan to me. It says, having nothing is the only way to have everything.
It does sound like a riddle, but think about a cup. If a cup is full of old, stagnant water full of your anger, your vanity, your comparisons, you can't pour anything fresh into it.
You have to empty the cup first.
Precisely. Having nothing means emptying yourself of those negative attachments. When you are empty of the self, the ego, the vanity, you make room for the universe, or what the text calls the greatest creator, to fill you up.
So paradoxically, by holding on to nothing, you become open to.
Of receiving everything.
That's a perfect bridge to the next layer of this manual. If we manage to clean up our own house, our mind, how do we then step out the front door and interact with the neighborhood? The text has so much to say about social dynamics, and again, the metaphors are just fantastic.
They really are. Item 137 is one of my favorites in this entire section. It says, trust is honey, while distrust is a knife.
Trust is honey. That's such a warm image. It binds things together. It's sweet. It preserves.
And the knife severs. If you approach a relationship with suspicion, you're already holding a knife. You've cut the connection before it even started.
But, and this is a big but, the text doesn't advocate for being a doormat. It has a very strong stance on autonomy.
Oh, yeah. Item 141 is basically a manifesto for minding your own business. Walk your own path, speak your own words, and do not meddle in others' affairs.
It's about respectful distance.
It recognizes every soul is on its own journey. You can't walk someone else's path for them.
But then it drops a bomb. It warns us specifically about the people who ignore that rule. The people who come up to you and say, hey, I'm just doing this for your own good.
Item 150. This is one of the strangest and most striking lines in the translation. It says people who use that phrase, for your own good, might be harboring ghost fetuses.
Ghost fetuses. I have to admit, that sounds like the title of a horror movie. We need to unpack that. What is it actually getting at?
It's this really gut-punch way of describing a hidden, undeveloped, parasitic agenda. A ghost fetus is something that isn't fully alive, it's hidden inside, and it feeds on the host.
Wow.
The text is warning that when someone claims to be acting for your benefit but is violating your autonomy, they usually have a secret motive that serves them, not you.
That is creepy, but it makes total sense. It's manipulation disguised as altruism. It's saying, watch out for the hidden agenda.
Exactly. And that ties directly into how the text defines love. Because real love, according to item 171, should never be used to kidnap or strangle the person you love.
And we've all seen relationships where love is used as a leash. I love you, so you must do this.
That kind of transactional love.
So if that's the wrong way to love, the strangling kind, what's the right way? Item 147 gives us the standard, and honestly, it feels impossible to live up to. It compares love to the sun.
Love has no specific object. That's the key phrase. The sun doesn't shine for that specific oak tree in your backyard. It doesn't say, I'll shine on you today, but only if you grow taller.
It just shines.
It just shines. It radiates warmth and light because that is its nature.
So we're supposed to radiate love just because we are loved, not because someone earned it or we want something back.
That's the new era standard. Transactional love is trade. Sun-like love is a state of being. It's a high bar, for sure, but the text suggests anything less is just a form of control or commerce.
Speaking of control, how people organize themselves, the text takes a brief detour into political philosophy, but it views politics through this spiritual lens. Item 152 talks about egalitarianism.
And it rejects it. It says forced equality is unfair. But what's fascinating is the specific critique it levels at communism. It doesn't really critique the economic theory so much as the spiritual void. It says communism without faith in the greatest creator does not work.
That's a really important distinction. It's not saying sharing is bad. In fact, item 181 says a civilized society shares resources while a barbaric one fights for them.
Right. The goal sharing is good, but the mechanism matters. The text argues you can't force people to be selfless through government policy. True sharing has to come from that sun-like state of being we just talked about.
It requires a higher moral grounding.
Exactly. If you try to force equality on people who are still full of vanity and greed, the system just collapses.
So the structure of society depends entirely on the spiritual health of the individuals inside it. Which brings us to the architecture of this whole system.
Hmm.
Throughout the text, there are constant references to the greatest creator.
Yes. In the source material, this is the ultimate divine power.
Yeah.
And the text makes it very clear. Our well-being is not just a biological hack, it's a relationship with this force. Item 114 lists things like health, peace, joy.
And contentment.
Right. And it explicitly states these are rewards from the greatest creator.
So you can't just diet and exercise your way to peace. It's framed as a divine gift. And on the flip side, we have to talk about how the universe delivers luck. Because I feel like a lot of people think life is just a series of random events. You get lucky, or you get hit by a bus.
This source vehemently disagrees with that. Item 192 uses a wonderful agricultural metaphor. Seed melons get melons.
Seed melons get melons. It's simpler than saying karma, but it cuts right to the chase, doesn't it?
It's the law of cause and effect. It says misfortune is self-invited. There are no secret back doors to luck or disaster. We build the doorways ourselves. And this isn't just about actions, it's about thoughts.
Item 166. It explicitly references the law of attraction.
It does. It says thinking of beautiful things brings them, and thinking of ugly things attracts ugliness. It's basically telling us our mind is a magnet.
So if you obsess over what you lack, or your anger, remember the tornado. You're attuning your receiver to that frequency.
You are. The text urges us to focus on the beautiful to attract the beautiful.
There's one more law of physics in this text that I found really profound, especially for us living in this hyper-fast digital age. Item 173.
Everything is consumed by motion and born of stillness.
Stillness is the house of the divine.
That is a countercultural statement right there. We are obsessed with motion, productivity, scrolling, traveling, doing. But this text says motion consumes. It uses up life force.
And stillness generates it.
Wisdom, divinity, recharge. They only live in the quiet. It explains why we feel so drained by modern life. We are constantly in motion, constantly consuming our own energy without ever stopping to regenerate in stillness.
Motion consumes. Stillness generates. I've been thinking about that one for a while. But we have to move on to the grand finale. The text wraps up this section with item 200.
Item 200. It's essentially the final exam. It asks two massive questions. What is evil and what is good? And then instead of some philosophical paragraph, it just drops to enormous lists.
These lists are wild to me. What fascinated me is how it just flattens the hierarchy of sin. In our legal system, murder is way up here and littering is way down there.
Right.
In item 200, they are uncomfortably close together.
It completely flattens the curve. Under evil, you have the obvious ones. Murder, arson, blaspheming the greatest creator, ungratefulness to parents.
The big ones.
The big ones. But then right next to them, you have jumping the queue.
Cutting in line is listed as evil with a capital E.
And wasting food. Or complaining. Or simply being jealous of someone else's talent.
And don't forget the environmental stuff. Polluting rivers, destroying forests, and even digging up grassroots are listed as evil acts.
It suggests that evil isn't just about the catastrophic acts that make the news. Evil is the daily erosion of order and respect. It's the small acts of selfishness that degrade the world around us.
It also includes the supernatural, promoting superstitions, fortune-telling, playing ghost, all on the naughty list.
Right. The text takes a very hard stance against anything that manipulates or distracts from the direct relationship with reality and the greatest creator. Sorcery, fortune-telling, these are seen as deviations from the way.
Distractions from the source.
Exactly.
Then we flip to the good list. And again, it's this mix of the sublime and the mundane. You have awe for life and reverence for the greatest creator. But then you have planting fruit trees.
And picking up trash.
And being on time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my friends need to hear that one. Being punctual is listed as a moral good.
Well, it falls under keeping promises and respecting others' time. There are also personal aesthetic choices listed as good smiling, dressing decently or beautifully. The text says, image is pleasing.
No, wait a minute. Looking good is a moral virtue. That sounds, well, a little shallow.
In this context, I don't think it is. Remember, vanity is cancer, but dignity is good. Dressing well and smiling isn't about showing off. It's about presenting your best self to the world, uplifting the environment around you. It's a form of respect, you know?
Respect for others and for the life you've been given.
Yeah.
Okay, when you step back and look at these two lists, good and evil, is there a code to crack here? What makes something make the list?
I spent a lot of time looking at this, and if you look at item 195 alongside item 200, clear theme emerges. It all comes down to resources.
Resources.
Yes. Look at the evil list again. What do they have in common? Wasting food, Wasting time by cutting in line, wasting human talent by being jealous or suppressing it, wasting natural resources by polluting.
That is a fascinating take. Evil is waste.
And good is the optimization of resources. Planting trees adds value. Helping people use their talents adds value. Telling the truth saves time. Item 195 explicitly says that pressing down talent or leaving things unused is the greatest waste.
So morality in this new era manual is actually about efficiency in the highest spiritual sense. Are you building up the world's value or are you draining it?
Exactly. Are you a creator or are you a consumer? Are you the sun or are you the cancer cell? That's the binary choice the text presents.
That completely changes how I look at jumping the queue. I'm stealing someone else's time resource.
And if you are jealous, you are wasting your own emotional resource. It's a resource management game, but the resource is life itself.
So what does this all mean for us? We've gone through the poisons of the mind, the honey and knives of relationships, the laws of the universe, and this massive checklist of good and evil.
I think the takeaway is that life is a mirror. Item 145 says, ugly things coming from someone prove that the person is ugly. It's harsh, but it's the core message.
So if you project jealousy, anger, and waste, you are destroying yourself. You're cutting your own arteries.
But if you project gratitude, stillness, and reverence for the greatest creator and for nature, you thrive. You become like the sun.
You stop fighting for resources and start creating them. You move from a barbaric state of grabbing to a civilized state of sharing.
You do.
It's a lot to process. But there's one tension I want to leave our listeners with, something to chew on as they go about their week. The text tells us that trust is honey and commands us to have this unconditional sun-like love. But at the very same time, it warns us about people with ghost fetuses and hidden agendas.
That is the ultimate tension, isn't it? It feels like a contradiction.
It does. So the question is, how do you balance the command to love unconditionally with the command to protect yourself from manipulation? How do you keep your heart open like a flower, but your boundaries strong enough to keep out the ghosts?
That is the delicate art of being a new era human, I suppose. Wisdom is knowing the difference.
Wisdom is knowing the difference. I love that. Thanks for helping us decode this manual today.
It was a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, check your spiritual hygiene, watch out for the tornadoes, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.